So, hello everyone. Good morning and welcome to today's event on remodeling your brand for net zero. So this is a Midlands Green Innovation Network event for Net Zero Week. And if you've been attending any of the other Net Zero Week events this week, I hope you've enjoyed them. I know that there's today and tomorrow. There are a number of events taking place, not just by ourselves at the Energy Research Accelerator, but also other partners as well. As I said earlier, if you've just entered the waiting room, would you mind, just entered the meeting, would you mind just muting yourselves? So our speaker today is Johnny Press from Seed, who's going to be talking about how to remodel your brand for net zero. But just before I introduce you and hand over to Johnny, I just want to tell you a little bit about the Midlands Green Innovation Network. So the Midlands Green Innovation Network is a network that we run here in the Midlands. And the aim of the network is to provide advice and support for SMEs in sustainability and net zero innovation. So we've been running a number of events since December of last year. Some of these events have been in person, some of them have been virtual, as today's event. And we've covered topics such as how to get funding for net zero, intellectual property, what kind of skills you need for net zero, how to think innovatively, how to develop sustainable products, and how to decarbonize your business. So we've covered a whole range of topics, and we're always looking for ideas from people about things that they would like us to cover in future. So if you'd like to take part in the network, and if you've got some ideas of topics you'd like to cover or expertise that you've got that maybe you'd like to speak about, please let me know. So my name is Nick King. I'm the marketing manager for the Energy Research Accelerator. And I'll just tell you a little bit about the Energy Research Accelerator before handing over to Johnny. So the Energy Research Accelerator, we are a partnership of 8 universities in the Midlands. Hopefully you can see all those universities there on my slide. Aston, Birmingham, Cranfield, Kiel, Leicester, Loughborough, Nottingham, Warwick, and the British Geological Survey. And the aim of the Energy Research Accelerator is essentially to kind of specialize in energy research. We had some funding from government going back a few years, and this funding was used to invest in new facilities. So everything from battery innovation at the University of Warwick, a geoenergy test bed in Leicestershire where they look at storing carbon capture, things like the Trent Basin housing scheme in Nottingham, which is a demonstration project where we are where people are managing their own energy and excess energy is sent back to the grid, and it has the biggest Tesla battery in Europe. Tyseley Energy Park, which has the biggest hydrogen refueling centre in Europe, and also it is a whole ecosystem for innovative businesses. So we are very keen to hear from businesses. If you're in the energy sector, if you've got some ideas, if you're working on technologies, please come and have a chat to us. We've got a lot of expertise and facilities that we can use for helping you. And also, just finally, we also specialise. We have a new program called HYDEX, which was formed last year. So we are developing the hydrogen economy in the Midlands. You can see here some of the companies involved, some well-known household names. In fact, earlier this week, we had an event down at JCB in Staffordshire, looking at hydrogen in construction and agriculture. But we are very keen to work with businesses involved in the hydrogen sector or supply chain, because we want to make the Midlands a whole centre for hydrogen expertise and production, because we're very well situated in the centre of the country, the hub for transport, and we have a lot of great facilities here. So that's just my sales pitch about the Energy Research Accelerator. I'd now like to move on to our keynote speaker today, Johnny Press from Seed, who's going to be talking to you about remodeling your brand for net zero. So Johnny, over to you.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, thank you for joining us today, everyone. I'm guessing if you're here today that you are interested in decarbonisation and net zero, but hopefully you're also interested in brand and brand building and brand strategy. So just let me share my screen with everyone. Okay, can we all see that? Thumbs up, Nick. Is that all good?
That's good.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, everyone, great. Let's crack on. So we might hear a few little beeps as we do this. There's a few people entering the room. If they beep now, that means they're late. But yeah, we won't make them feel guilty. So I'm going to jump straight in now. So yeah, this workshop is called Remodeling Your Brand to Achieve Net Zero. So we are going to be talking about net zero and decarbonisation and getting your business ready in terms of maybe looking at carbon capture, looking at the ecology side of your business and the social aspects of your business. But the tagline there is quite important. Why being purpose-led can lead to larger profits, innovation and sustainable growth. It's not just about doing the right thing. I do think doing the right thing is important, but as business owners, or if we're employees or we work within organizations, we do need to run businesses, and the businesses need to be economically viable, and they can work in harmony. And I've got some really great theories to talk about today, but I've also got some amazing case studies of businesses, one particular business that's really doing incredible work in terms of sustainability and regenerative practice. So a little bit about me, just bear with me. Let's get that. There we go. So yeah, I'm Johnny Prest. I'm the creative strategist at Seed. I often used to say I'm the brand strategist, but so much of my work now isn't just about identity or brand. I'm looking at creativity in coming up with solutions and ideation in so many different areas of a business, from HR to finance to sales to production and product development. My agency Seed, if you had asked me about 6 weeks ago, what are we? I probably would have said we were a creative agency. I've actually changed that now. I often tell people that we're a change agency. And the reason why I say that we're a change agency is that the creative and the communications and the marketing side of what we do is just one part of it. Actually, at the front end, there's a lot of discovery, there's a lot of strategy, a lot of coming up with ideas. But on the other end of it, there's a lot of doing the work. So we deliver community-led projects with businesses, with organizations in the public sector. And a lot of it is actually just rolling up our sleeves and getting involved in doing things, whether it be around sustainability, ecology, social foundation work, and actually communications and marketing sits within there as well. So that's why we say change agency. I don't know whether I've just made up change agency or I've heard it somewhere else, but it seems to be fitting. But the main areas in which we work on is advancing research and tech communications, hence the work, my connection with ERA and energy. We work with lots of different universities and funded research projects to deliver research. But I'm really super interested in and do a lot of work in regenerative business strategy. And that's really what I'm going to be talking about today. And then holistically overall, I want to inspire cleaner and greener cities. Now, I speak to a lot of businesses all the time about net zero, and there is still a lot of confusion around net zero, decarbonize, climate neutrality, or climate change. There's a lot of words that get used here, and we're all fumbling our way through all of this. Whether you're a business leader or you're a startup or you're a student, it doesn't really matter. We're all trying to figure this out. And for me, it's about clarity, and it's about language and storytelling. For one, to educate ourselves about what's going on, build awareness about these important global things that are happening right now, but then actually understand about how we act and actually act upon work. I probably have to remind everyone, could you put yourself on mute? Is that okay? Thanks very much. So we do need clarity here, and I do like to try and break this down into stories. And more recently, I've been telling people it's a bit like this. It's a bit like being at a party that's got way out of hand. So if we were to look at our current economic system, it's like a party where there's no tomorrow. We're looking at continual growth, incremental growth, whether it be 3% or 5%. Now, I don't know whether anyone that's watching this or listening to this has ever been to a party that's got way out of hand. Okay, so let's think about how the party started. When the party started, it was very civilized. There was lots of good ideas. Everyone's having a good time. But it's a party that's grown and grown and grown. And now we've got people being sick in the bedroom. Someone's lit a fire in the garden. There's a punch up and someone's hanging from the landing. It's got way out of hand and it needs to stop. Now, what do we do then about this party? Do we just go round individually and try and persuade people to change and to stop partying? Do we think that's going to work? That's currently kind of what we're doing. We are doing a lot of small nudge tactics. We're trying to get people to create better businesses. We're looking at people to have ESG within their business. We're looking at people to look at the way that they're doing carbon capture or carbon reduction in small incremental ways. Now, if you've ever been to a party that's got way out of hand, just by telling people they should stop, we probably know that's not going to happen. What we need to do is take away the booze and switch the music off. Okay, now I know this seems like a really crude way of describing about what's happening globally within climate change, but it's the easiest way to understand that we're at a point now where things need to change. Now, what this is, it's more of a way of talking about choice architecture. We need to look at better choices, and we need to probably take more choices away so that we have better choice architecture within business. Now, let's take this to another step. If we're thinking of it as a party that's got way out of control, sustainability is ordering a cab and going home. Regenerative is staying and tidying up. Now, there's nothing wrong with sustainability, and I don't want this workshop to be a witch hunt about sustainability, because it's one of those words, it has mixed feelings, good and bad. It's a bit of a love-hate word. I think sustainability, when it's done correctly and it's done efficiently and it's authentic, is incredible. Within businesses that are being really sustainable in the way that they develop their products and services, and that where they are delivering their business sustainably, it's amazing. But a lot of people are using sustainability, or not using it enough, as a bit of a bolt-on. So sustainability is good if it's done correctly. And the best way to look at it is ordering a cab and going home. We are not involved in this party that's got way out of hand. Regenerative is the tidy up, it's the restoration of the mess and the damage that we have created. Okay, I'm big into terminology. I'm really big into language, because I think that climate action is probably more 90% a psychological problem and 10% a scientific problem. Like, because we have the science, we have the technology, we know what we need to do, but there is a lack of action. And I think it's through awareness and language. And I don't think our media is playing the correct role in all of this. But rather than we say climate change, a better word is climate damage. It's the same with pollution and poison. They're much more dramatic words. They have more drama to them. And actually, we're at a point now where we do need to add more drama to the words, more to the language and the media and the stories that we tell. So let's think of it through this process as climate damage, and that we're looking at, one, slowing down the damage that we're causing, which is sustainability, and then the fixing and the restoration of damage, which is regenerative. So the road to regenerative is through sustainable action. We have to be sustainable in what we're doing, but ultimately, in the process of slowing down, we also need to be looking at the action of restoration and regenerative. And the reason why they say regenerative by design is there's a reason to that, is that you can't just be regenerative in what you're already doing. In some ways, you can't just be sustainable with what you're already doing. We can't look at business as usual. We really need to rethink the way that we develop and grow our products, the way that we build our business, the way that we onboard and where we offboard people into our organization. and every facet of the business. The reason why we talk about DNA in all of this is that it has to come through the DNA of the business. It's not just layers that we add onto the top or a bolt-on. It really, really needs to be led by leadership, and it needs to be in every fabric of our business. Okay, shall we get the doomism out the way? I think it's really important that we just get all the really bad, horrendous global problems out the way very, very early on, because then we can spend the rest of this workshop starting to think optimistically about where we're going. We can talk about progression and progress, but we really need to start talking about where we are right now. So let's talk economics. Okay, so one of the main reasons why we're in this problem at the moment is our national and global economic system. Let's think of it as like the party that's got out of hand. When we started this party, everyone had the right intentions. We still have some of the right intentions, but it is a party that's got way out of hand. It's the accumulation of people and businesses and economic growth that has got us here. So what's our current GDP economics? What's it doing? Well, this incremental growth that we keep looking at, what it's doing globally is deforestation and habitat destruction. So woodland areas, wild spaces, wetlands. Within the growth process, there's water pollution. We have climate change, which we're mainly talking about today, and loss of biodiversity. The overuse and the excavation of finite materials and resources. We are running out of these resources. We are running out of virgin materials. And that's why circularity is so important now, that we continue to fix and repair and restore the virgin materials and the materials that we have on the planet. We are constantly increasing the use of fossil fuels, which obviously leads to climate change. And we have this throwaway culture. So we get something, we use it once, we have it for a while, and we throw it away. All these things are what we're currently, the biggest challenges that we have globally right now. And although if you're listening to this and you're in the UK, perhaps climate change isn't at your doorstep right now, it soon will be. And that's one of the reasons why in our country, in the UK, is that this party has got way out of hand, because we don't have clear and present danger at our doorstep. The sirens are in the distance, but their sirens are getting louder. So what do? We have to reform our economic system. And how are we going to do this? So let's actually look how we got here. Okay, so this is just, like I said, this is an incremental growth in way that we've got here. It's the compound effect of industry, business. And let's go right now to before the 18th century with the Industrial Revolution. Then we moved into the age of railways, the electrical revolution, Fordism and mass production, the information age, and now where we are right now. Now, one of the things that you'll see in the different industrial milestones is that they're getting closer and closer and closer together as we grow in the population, but as technology grows, as industries widen and become much more rangy, our needs and wants have changed. Society has changed. Societal needs and wants have changed. And actually now we're seeing this rapid speeding of new industries and new technology happening. So now we're moving into the sharing economy. We're now looking at the technological disruption, Industry 4.0, artificial intelligence. So what's around the corner? What's next? Now, I want to believe that the regenerative age is now where we're moving into. It's the cleanup. It's the end of the party. It's the cleanup. But we're not going to be able to slow down technology. We're not going to be able to slow down the growth of businesses. So the question here is, if we're still aspiring to have a growth economy, what economy can we grow? Well, really, it needs to be a regenerative economy, because we can't keep growing the GDP-based economy. So I think the technological disruption will continue to grow. The sharing economy will continue to grow. Industry 4.0 will turn into Industry 5.0. And we're only just at the beginning of artificial intelligence. But who's to say that Industry 5.0 couldn't be the savior of our economy. It could be the savior of our planet. I wonder if artificial intelligence could be the savior of our planet and our ecological and social systems. What a great concept that could be. But it's still the regenerative age. So how do we move into the regenerative age? Currently, we're using the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, the Sustainable Development Goals, for me, although as a principle, as a theory, are great, because those 17 goals individually are what we need to do. But from what I see with businesses, again, it's still a bolt-on. It's still things that we're adding on to our business, that we're layering on like a veneer, rather than actually looking at the fabric and the DNA of our business, actually looking at our business model, the way that we develop our products and services. It really needs to be at the center of that, within the fabric and the mechanisms of how we build and grow our businesses. And the only way to do that is through radical regenerative design within the business. So if we want to have a regenerative economy, in theory, we need to have regenerative businesses at the heart of that. So again, let's go through some terminology. So some of you will know this already. I do apologize, but if you don't, I'm going to be saying a lot of words that you might be thinking, oh, I'm not sure what he means by this. So let's explain this. So currently, the majority of businesses that serve our economy are degenerative, and it's the take, make, use, and lose model. So we create things, we buy them, we use them, and we throw them away. Again, we know that this is very, very harmful, and it's unsustainable. You know, there's only a finite amount of resources we have on this planet. Our landfills are growing, our water systems are being polluted. We can't just keep using things and throwing away. It's just not sustainable. It's not going to work. What we're looking for is sustainable business practice. That's the good starting point, so that we have this circularity. So the things that we make come from resources that may have been recycled. We get to make them in a more sustainable way, in the way that we use water, in the way that we use energy, in the way that we look after the people that make these things. But ultimately, what we want to transition into is the regenerative model. And you can see that it's the kind of donut shape, but the investment back into that donut. Now, a lot of the theories and the concepts and the strategies that I'm going to be talking about, you probably are aware, it comes from donut economics. So this is Kate Raworth kind of practice, donut economics. It's, I think, out of all the different economic models, it is the best out of all of them. It seems like it's the one that could grow, and it's the one that fits into our current economic model the best at the moment. I do recommend that you read the book Donut Economics. It's an absolute game changer. Okay. Oh. All right, so I'm going to play a little video now, very short video that explains what donut economics is. Now, sometimes when I play this video through Zoom or any video, you don't get to hear the audio. So to be on the safe side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my microphone by my speaker, and hopefully you're going to be able to hear the video. If you can't hear it, don't worry, we will send out the presentation or the video separately.
A few years ago, I tried to draw pictures. I love drawing pictures. I tried to draw a picture of the world that we want to live in. And it, silly though it sounds, it came on a donut, American one with a hole in the middle. So imagine a donut, there's the outside, and then there's the inside, and there's that hole in the middle. In the hole in the middle, that's space of deprivation, space where people don't have the resources to meet the essentials of life. Like they don't have enough food or education. They don't have access to electricity, enough income. They don't have decent housing. So it's a space of shortfall. We want to get people out of that hole in the middle into the donut. But we want to do that for the whole world, making sure that we also don't go beyond the donut's outer crust, because that's a space of ecological overshoot where humanity puts more pressure on the planet than the planet can take. And we start causing climate change or massive loss of biodiversity. We start creating a hole in the ozone layer or polluting Earth with chemicals that we add to it. So we need to both get people out of deprivation and poverty, but also protect Earth and protect these fundamental life-supporting systems that keep us alive. Those are the two sides of human well-being, the inside and the outside of the donut. And the 21st century challenge is a unique one. It's to get everybody out of poverty while coming back in at the same time. That's never been happening. And that's partly why we need to invest in this. It's a completely new way of looking at what human well-being is.
Okay, hopefully that's added a bit of clarity there. Let's look at some pictures here that actually illustrates what Kate was talking about there. So that's what the donut looks like. So she's talking about that social shortfall in terms of we need to get we need a level playing ground for everyone on the planet. So social equity, gender equity, we need to make sure that people have housing, energy, water, food. If anyone knows that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's quite similar to that actually the fundamental physical needs and emotional needs to be met. And we've said within climate action that we need those two bottom layers filled or to be fulfilled before you can move on to actually start to think about your local communities and wider and global challenges. So we need to make sure that the social foundation is met. And then we move into this regenerative and distributive economy where people are working, where businesses are flourishing and growing. But at the same time, we can't grow too big that we start to create damage to the planet. So with water, with land, biodiversity, pollution, et cetera, et cetera. So the challenge for businesses now is how do we stay within the donut? So for businesses that are watching this right now, what we need to start doing then is start to think about, well, where do we sit in this? Whereabouts are we? So you want to start doing something like this. Now, I'm sorry, there's a lot of text on there. Again, you can share, we'll share all this with you. And again, you can go to Donut Economics website, it's all there. So you need to take 2 Post-it notes, 2 different colors, green or red or whatever suits you. And you need to start pointing out the areas in which you're working sustainably and regeneratively, and then the areas where you're not. So socially, what you're doing in terms of your organization, and then economic ecology side of things, planetary, where are we causing damage? And you need to start mapping this out. This is the beginning to figure out in terms of your ESG or your sustainable development goals, where do we need to do the work here? So once you've done that, okay, yeah, you need to identify where your social ecological pressures are. But once you've done that, you can start coming up with ideas. And once you've got the ideas, you can look at how do we look at our practices? How do we look at our products? How are we developing our systems and processes? Looking at the fabric of our building, looking at how our employees travel to and from work. How do we treat our employees? How are we engaging the communities of our local area? All of this needs to be explored. You have to do a lot of ideation work, and then you've got to start exercising out. Because once you've got that and you can really map out where you're on the donut, that's then when you can start to think about your brand. Again, if you start to do all of this without looking at your social and environmental impact, and you move straight into brand, that is where then you might start misinforming people. You might not be able to get everyone on the bus correctly, but then also you might then start using the wrong language and the wrong messaging. Then you could be moving close to greenwashing. And that's what we're trying to avoid here, because to avoid greenwashing, it really needs to be at the fabric of your business, and you need to be living and breathing it and doing it. It's all well and good identifying it. It's all well and good talking about it, but you've got to go out and do it. Okay, so I've got a really great case study here of a business that is doing some amazing work, and they are regenerative by design. So this is our next video. Again, I'm just going to put the microphone by the speaker.
Well, one of the biggest challenges to address, the climate crisis is just understanding that people perceive things in a very different way. And it's changing that perception, changing that kind of psychology of how we interpret a resource can really lead us towards addressing the major climate crisis issues that we're facing. As a company, we are driven by the genius of nature, and that kind of approach to only allowing nature to lead innovation and only having a regenerative impact on everything we touch is manifested in everything we do. And one of the main products we are commercializing at the moment is our mushroom-based mycelium insulation. It's a building insulation product that is outperforming all the major synthetic and natural alternatives on the market, and it is actually carbon negative and has a huge health benefit as well. So we're kind of ticking all the boxes, we're hitting all the sustainable development goals with a product that is, you know, natural and created with nature.
Mycelium insulation or mushroom-based insulation is made using fungi, which is and particularly mycelium, which is a vegetative root structure of mushrooms. If the mushroom is the fruit, mycelium is the root system that sits in the topsoil and binds the topsoils. The role that mycelium plays in the ecosystem is that it allows plants to communicate with one another and exchange nutrients. It's truly the nature's internet. So when working with a living organism, it's truly about collaboration. You're no longer a designer, and it's no longer just a material. It is actually almost an equitable or equal collaboration with so-called material that you're trying to create something with, which I personally think is almost like a privilege of you as a maker collaborating with the material that you're making with, which is beautiful.
Because nature spent billions of years evolving all these incredible technologies and feats of engineering, it's just a huge bank that hasn't been tapped into, mainly because we've been delusionally thinking that we are, you know, we can do it better. But the reality is, you know, over billions of years, you can achieve so much more than we have in the kind of few seconds we've existed in the existence of the universe.
We're now at a different age or at the brink of an era that is different, that is where we've probably hit the limits of the technologies we've developed. We've seen what those technologies have led to, the climate crisis, to the collapse of all the ecological systems. And I believe that profession of design has now a responsibility and opportunity to tap into a different type of genius, a different type of technology that is inspired by and is led by the beautiful sophistication and gentleness of the natural world. And I think there's a whole universe out there for designers to tap into and to learn from.
I would say that our mycelium insulation is the perfect manifestation of nature's genius. It really embodies, you know, how we can make a huge impact in the climate crisis without compromising on building performance.
Okay, great. So yeah, that company is called Biome. They're well worth checking out. I think the mycelium production is getting involved in so many different areas now, and I love the regenerative practice within the built environment. I just think there's so much amazing things that can happen over the next decade. Building buildings and houses, and the way that we heat our houses and run our houses obviously plays a huge role in the climate crisis. And I think using things, these incredible bio-based materials in insulation, the way that we develop structures and concrete and cement and all these areas, I just think it's in a really interesting area. So if there's anyone listening that is moving into the built environment, works in construction and engineering, I just think it's really, really exciting. And yeah, if you are involved in any of these areas, I'd love to speak to you about it. Okay, bear with me. Okay, so we've looked at donut economics. We've looked at a regenerative economic model. Now, we're not saved. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, because for me, a regenerative economic system will only work with companies like Biome, with a regenerative business model within the heart of it. Now, you can't just change your products overnight. And I know there might be some businesses here that are at the beginning of this journey and have a long, long, long way to go. There is a layered approach here. So from a product point of view, you probably the first thing to do is start looking at R&D. You need to start educating yourself and creating an R&D department or area or time within the business. But parallel to that, it needs to come from a brand level. And a regenerative economic system will only work with businesses that are regenerative by design. So if we're going to have these principles and use these principles, it has to come from brand level. And I use this saying all the time. And if you've ever heard me talk, I always say that all roads lead back to brand strategy. And with your economic model and your regenerative business model, it does start with brand. It does move quite quickly in parallel to products and process, but it does start with brand. Now, let's go back to terminology again. What is a brand? You know, it's not a logo and a set of fonts. It's much, much more than that. Everyone's got their own kind of explanation on what a brand is. For me, a brand is an identity within a perceived space. So the quite key word there is perceived. It's about perception. So if I was to mention an organization or business to you, your perception of that business is different from me, but it's an identity. So what's an identity? It's our experiences that we have with someone. It's what we've heard about them. It's their reputation. It's the connectedness that we have with them. And the space is the category. So builders, retailers, sports clubs, they all work and perform within a category. So it's the identity that we perceived in that category. So that's what a brand is, but it's the connectedness that we have towards it. So it could be connectedness towards a product, a service, culture, or business. Now, to develop a brand, you have to develop the connectedness that you have with people and with their perceptions. And if you are going to be regenerative or sustainable from a brand level, then it's much, much deeper than just layering on things afterwards, or trying to be a bit more sustainable, or adding a few sustainable development goals to your business. It's got to come from the DNA of the business. So what's a brand strategy then? It's the exploration, the realization and design of the playbook to build the identity. So it really starts with this. These are the conversations. So we've got to start exploring. And people say to me, where do I start with all of this? I always say the same thing, put the kettle on. It has to start with a conversation, and a conversation always starts within our work with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. We've got to start exploring this. We've got to ask better questions. And then when we start realizing where we're going, then we can start to design a strategy, a playbook. The reason why I say playbook more than a strategy is that it needs to be written in pencil. And if you're involved in sport, your playbook will probably need to change at half time. There's a level of agility here within what you're trying to do. So let's go into brand DNA then. This is a diagram that we use here at Seed, and this is a brand DNA. So regenerative and sustainability needs to flow through all of these areas. So let me break these areas down. We start at the center with the why, okay? Before we actually get to the why, we ask, what do we want? And again, I say that we're a change agency. One of the main questions that we ask our clients is, what is it that you want to change? And I'm guessing if you're here today and you're watching or listening to this, you want to change your business for the good of the planet and for good of the people. We start with want, we move into why. So the where is, where are we going? You know, what's the direction for travel? Where do we want to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? The way is the philosophy. It's the way that we do things. It's the way that we handle our difficult challenges. It's the culture. It's the way that we treat our employees. The who is, who do we serve? Who is this for? Who are our products for? The what is, what are we producing? What do we sell? What are our products? What are our services? Now, the top bit, the where and the way, is more internal, and it's the culture. And ultimately, it's the impact that we have with our people and on the planet. And then the bottom is the who and the what. It's the outward facing things, and it's the experience that people have with our brand, and it's the message, and it's the image. And then all of this together creates the identity. It's the identity of our organization. It's much deeper than visual. It's much deeper than surface level stuff. It's really the fabric of everything we do. And sustainability is the blood that pumps all of this. Regenerative is the outcome, and it's the restoration of the work that we're going to do on the planet. Okay, so we have an activity. For the purpose of time, I don't know whether we're going to have time, because I do want to leave time for questions at the end. So I'm going to move forward, but this is a good place for you to start. And you can start this today on your own, or you can take it to your organization or your next meeting. But this is a great place. So don't start with why, don't start with purpose, start with want. And a great question to put forward to everyone is, what do we want to change? It's a great starting point. And it really, and you've got to be honest. You've got to get people feeling that they can open up. It's got to be a safe environment where people feel that they can talk about what they want to do. Leadership needs to be in the room. They have to be in the room, but it's also important for leadership to not say anything and listen and let their employees, let all the stakeholders say what is it they want to change. Once you've done that, second activity is you start with why. If you want to be more purpose-led, purpose drives everything, is we need to know, do we have a collective purpose? Because it's not about individual purposes now. It's not the leadership or the founder's purpose. It has to be a collective purpose. It's something it's the glue that sticks us all together. And I do love the saying North Star. I know it's a bit cheesy and gets used a lot, but North Star is a great way of explaining as where we're all walking together, where we all, what's our compass and where we're moving to. And is everyone on the bus? So we need to get as many people, if not everyone, onto this bus, because this will only happen if we're all driving it, right from the junior level, right up to senior leadership. Everyone's involved in this. It's not just a comms thing or a marketing thing or a leadership thing. It's an everybody thing. And we've all got to work on it together. And purpose is powerful. Purpose will help you navigate through difficult times. It's that powerful that it goes beyond money. It goes beyond everything. It almost goes beyond values because it's such a strong current that will lead us where we need to go. And the reason why I say start with want is if we don't want to do this, if leadership don't want to do this, it will never work. But that's where, as a team, as a collective, we need to have these discussions to understand why it's so important that we get on this bus, and we've got to move forward. And I'm going to go into a few reasons why having this as our collective purpose is the only way. Okay, so what we do as a team is we have to explore the possibilities. So this is a great way of getting everyone on board, especially leadership, is let's get excited about this. Let's really get excited about where we can go with this, how we can be innovative, how we can redevelop technology, how we can unite everyone together. It's an exciting time if you let it. I know it's difficult and there's a lot of negativity, but it can be positive. This is a time where we can really come together and move into the regenerative age and create some incredible businesses and incredible lives for the people around us. We've got to make a pledge for change. It's not like I said, I keep saying it's not a bolt-on. It's not something that we'll just do on the side. It's not something that we do just to make sure that we keep policymakers happy. It's not something that we do to keep customers happy. We have to make a pledge for change, and we have to have courage. It's going to be the most difficult thing that you've ever done in a business, especially if you're leadership. It will be more difficult than COVID, because for some businesses, we're talking about radical change. We're talking about radically changing our systems, our processes, our manufacturing, our products. And that is scary, but it can be really exciting at the same time. And this could be a turning point for a lot of businesses. You need the team on board. You need to build a change team. Now, I heard a stat, it was 2 days ago, that we need to get at least 15% of the people within our change team, because that will create a tipping point. We need enough people within the organization to drive this. It's not just about leadership. It's not just about marketing or a small team. We need to choose people from different levels within the organization with different skill sets, different cognitive diversity, but ultimately you want to get people that believe in this and that will drive it forward in every facet of the business. Definitely need to get finance on board, because it's going to cost money for us to do this, and finance need to understand why it is we're creating radical change within our business. So why should we do this? Hopefully this will give you more of a reason. Firstly, because it's the right thing to do, but there are other things that give us reason to do this. The first one is enhanced business efficiency and competitiveness. So look, even if we just looked at energy, there is cost savings. By being more energy efficient, we will save money in the long run. And we've seen with the cost of living and the cost of business is rising and rising. This is the time that we want to start looking at decarbonisation, carbon capture and carbon reduction. it will improve your reputation. I talked about the identity of a brand. Is part of it is reputation. By doing this, you're going to improve your reputation. It shows that you care about people, that you care about the environment. And that means a lot to your customers, to your suppliers, to your contractors, to your clients. It means a lot, and it will carry weight. Regulatory compliance and risk mitigation. You can either do it now if you want to, or you're going to be made to do it. The policies are coming in now in terms of carbon capture and carbon reduction. You are going to be made to do this at some point, and you will be monitored and assessed on your carbon capture. You may even be fined with it, and you might even be taxed with it. So you're best to be an early adopter now, start pushing it forward, because when these policies do come into place, you're already way ahead and you're not a laggard. Procurement. So if anyone here is involved in procurement, whether it be through the public sector or through any other procurement network, there are going to be policies that are put in place that are going to be, as part of the procurement, you will be assessed on your carbon impact or on your societal impact or your regenerative impact, whatever it is, whatever these terminology and policies are, it will help you, or you'll become a disadvantage if you're not already doing these things. And I know already with the local councils and local authorities are starting to look at these things as who they procure. So organizations that are ahead of the curve, that are got more sustainable practice, that have got more regenerative practice, are more likely to win the tenders. And again, from the flip side, if you tender out your work or you're looking for your supply chain, then by having these in place, having these policies in place, you're going to get better suppliers. You're going to get more sustainable and regenerative suppliers to your organization, which in turn helps you with your scope 3. So if you are looking at developing lowering emissions through scope 3, by having a procurement system which looks at these more sustainable businesses, then that's going to help with your scope 3 and ultimately help you with lowering your emissions long term. New products and new markets. So you can innovate in new products. You can create the green economy. There is a lot of money to be made. So if you're looking at developing new products, you're looking at developing, moving into new markets, there's money to be made, and there's lots of innovation here. So yeah, niche markets, lots of innovation. And, you know, lots of consumers are looking for more sustainable businesses. They're looking at more businesses that maybe B Corp or are really heavily invested in carbon reduction. So you can gain more customers by having this. And it's something that's a beacon for your business that you can sell. It's something that you can promote online to increase your green profile. And lastly, it's a talent beacon. So the Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they're looking for to work for businesses that are more sustainable, that are having better impact and looking at carbon neutrality. And it's a great way of keeping talent as well. It's a great way of retaining talent within your business, because people want to work for more greener businesses. If you do want to develop this, if you're at the beginning of your journey, the middle of your journey, or the end of your journey, I don't think there is an end, to be honest. I think we're all at the beginning. Do get in contact with me, because we run workshops all about brand, all about identity, all about regenerative and sustainable practice, and we can really help you and facilitate those conversations. So party on. I'm not telling anyone not to party, because I like to party myself, but it's about how we party, it's about where we party, and it's about don't trash the house. But yeah, party on, dudes. If you do need to contact me, that's my email. Check us out on seedcreativity.co.uk. But yeah, open the floor for questions.
Thank you very much, Johnny. That was a brilliant presentation and a real insight into how companies can go about remodeling themselves to achieve net zero. You've obviously done quite a lot of research into that area. I particularly like the 15% of the organisation needs to be in the change team. There's some solid facts and figures there. But okay, we're opening the floor to questions now. So there's one from Gary Morgan. Thanks for the question, Gary. Gary's asking if you've got any specific examples of brands that have remodeled to achieve net zero. Are there any well-known brands that you look at and think, yeah, you're doing it well?
Well, yeah, I think Biome was a great example there. There's a company called Falcon Coffees that that are doing some incredible work. And actually more closer to home is there's a hotel in Bournemouth called the Greenhouse. And they've been looking at sustainable practice for quite a long time, but they're also looking at regenerative practice. So in terms of sustainable practice, they're looking about the water they use for their guests, how they clean and wash towels, the food that they serve. It's all local produce from local suppliers. The energy is all based from renewables, but it wasn't something that they did overnight. It was something it took a long time, and it's normally incremental. What I quite like about businesses is that they get quite competitive with it. So they'll start off with just doing the basic stuff first, like fabrication of the building, monitoring energy is a great place to start. But then they start moving into how they use water, how they reduce the water, and it becomes quite competitive because then you start seeing the numbers go down and you think, well, what more could I do? So yeah, Falcon Coffees is a great example. The Greenhouse Hotel in Bournemouth. I'm trying to think of any others. Organic Basics was a company that we talked about recently, and we studied and did some work with that. They're reducing their carbon. They're doing a lot of carbon reduction within the underwear business. So looking at the organic cotton, how they can reuse and recycle cottons and fabrics. But it's regenerative isn't just about the product side of things and the material usage. It's very much about people. And if anything, it's people first, because firstly, you need to be looking after your local and regional communities and global communities, but it's really about the people within the organization. Everyone needs to be involved in this. And actually, if you can get the whole team on the bus, that's when really, really exciting things happen.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks for that. We've just had another question as well from Tamarin Jacobs. Thanks for the question, Tamarin, who's asking, how do we get more buy-in from larger organizations when they don't want to spend the money or invest in the changes needed to drive the regenerative ideology?
Sure. Well, I think it was those 5 areas that I covered at the end. I think with leadership and C-level suite leaders, you have to talk their language. And 2 things that really come up is cost and convenience for the business and looking at profit margins. Well, some of the things that we need to talk about is by innovating and moving into new markets and innovating their product can increase the bottom line. It will increase the profitability of the business. So that's a great starting point. And if leadership, most leaders won't ignore that. But there's also looking at policy. We're moving into an age where policy is changing, and we're going to have to do these things. The government will be pressing and putting weight onto businesses that they need the way that they use their water, the way that they use energy, and creating products that are more sustainable. So the key is don't wait around for this to not come to your front door. The key is to innovate now, move forward, and start getting ahead of the curve. But with leadership, I would say that a starting point is awareness and education. We need to speak to leadership, whether it's an employee or external facilitation, to have conversations about where we are right now and where we're going to go. And really, I mentioned earlier, it starts with R&D. Most businesses will have already or should have an R&D department to start fast tracking this transition and this transformation. We're seeing the big sports companies, they brought in one range of shoe that was made out of recycled plastic, C plastic. Then it's two products, then 3 products. In the next few years, I think Adidas and Nike have both said that all of their trainers will be made from recycled plastics. They're already moving forward. And I think with leadership, show them their competitors. This is what your competition are doing right now. That will make them think and make them react a bit faster.
Yeah, really good point. I see that Mary Stokes put a couple of useful links in the chat of companies to check out. So thanks for that, Mary. So I was just thinking, what would you say are the main reasons why companies fall down? They might have good intentions to, remodel themselves and introduce this net zero culture, but why do they fall down? Why do so many not actually achieve that?
Well, I think firstly, we're creatures of habit, and if an organization is profitable, they've been making the same product for 30, 40, 50, 100 years, everyone's quite comfortable, then why would you rock the boat? Why would you want to change? Why would you want to change? You know, you're asking someone to radically change their business model. And that is the challenge of our lifetime. But I think there is enough things out there to show people that they're going to have to change. You can't continue to work. It can't be business as usual. But I suppose with this, what I'm trying to say is that there's lots of positive things in doing this, because actually there's a lot of money to be saved by being more energy efficient, by looking at the way that we develop our products in a new way, in a more innovative way, that actually, you know, we could make our products that are byproducts from other systems and categories and sectors. We might be able to encourage better talent to the organization. We could maybe streamline the business into new markets where we could actually reduce loads and loads of overheads. Honestly, the list goes on and on. Actually, the list of transformation into regenerative systems and processes, actually, if you look at the pros and cons, the pros way completely outweigh the cons. But it is about education. You know, we can't be using scare tactics. We can't nudge people. We've got to show them a new vision of their future. And we have to let them empower them for their own ideation. We can't tell business leaders what to do. They don't work like that. We need to show them the options. We need to show them what the future could look like. And then we facilitate great conversation to encourage them to make their own decisions. That's how it will work. And a lot of the big businesses now that I speak to, they understand what's going on. They do understand, but it's trying to turn the oil tanker around. But there is good people out there, great sustainability consultants, great engineers, scientists, researchers that live and breathe this. They've given it their life's work on this. So I would say for organizations to tap into the knowledge, tap into the IQ, tap into the scientific community, because that will inspire them to change.
I think there's another comment in the chat. Thanks for that, Mary. Johnny, so if a business comes to you and says they want they want you to help them achieve this, what are the sort of practical steps that you do with them? What are the things that you work through with them in the first instance?
First thing is always put the kettle on. It's always put the kettle on. I think you have to sit down and have to be honest and have honest conversation here, because actually the first bit is a bit bumpy. The first bit is finding out, what do you want? You have to find out what people want. Asking what someone wants is a very, very simple question, but it's a very guarded answer, because the want leads to the why. And that's where the deep work is, because we need to understand what they want. Now, most business leaders, they want to advance their industry. They want to create new categories, and they want to make a few quid, probably a bit more than a few quid. And there's nothing wrong with being aspirational. I don't fly the flag for degrowth. I think we do need growth, but it's about, what are we growing? We've got to grow things that are sustainable and regenerative. So I like to work with leaders to really get to the truth of what they want, because ultimately what you find is when you get the truth, their truth does align with regenerative practice. It can work together in harmony. Once we've got there and we're all bought in, then the work starts. Then we've got to roll up our sleeves, and that's when it gets difficult. That's when things slow down again. But you need leadership on board. Leadership have to drive this. And if we get leadership to drive it, but facilitated by great minds, and then get the full buy-in from the business. If you read Jim Collins' Good to Great, that's a great example. Like, we need more good to great, but we need more good to great within the regenerative era. If we can marry those two things together, then we can do some great work, and business will understand from good to great the principles of that and the flywheel principle. But we need to sit within the donut. It's all about education. It's all about buy-in, but it's really about rolling up our sleeves and being brave.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Johnny. That was a brilliant talk today. We're just about at the end of the session. I just want to kind of leave people with Well, firstly, thank you very much for that, and I'm sure everybody really enjoyed that and got a lot out of it, as I did. So if you are interested in coming to a future Midlands Green Innovation Network event, take a look at our website, drop me an email. We're putting together our program for the next quarter now after the summer break. So my email is there, nick.king@era.ac.uk. The website is mgin.co.uk, and of course, take a look at the other events taking place this week at Net Zero Week. So once again, thank you all for coming today, and a massive thanks to you, Johnny, for that amazing presentation. So thank you very much, and have a good day, everyone.